Hello everybody, Captain Sidaris here. As part of our Star Trek September, I'm really honored to be joined by Bill Shamrock, a longtime player of Star Trek Armada. We're going to discuss why this game is so amazing after 24 years and it's still played by some players. So yeah, let's go directly into it. Hello sir, how are you doing?
I'm doing very good. How are you?
Not bad, considering it's 2 a.m. here. But I'm so curious about your story. What got you basically into Star Trek and Star Trek Armada?
Well, I first came across the game when I was a child. I must have been like 5 years old. My dad was a huge gamer, and I'd come home from school, I'd see him playing it, and my dad, my mom, they both loved Star Trek, so I grew up with Star Trek on the TV in the background all the time. So I just kind of took interest into it, and that's kind of like where it blossomed. And like that was one of the very first games I've ever played when I first started like playing video games. So it just kind of like stuck. It just never it never wore away. Like it got to the point where I don't know, like obviously a bunch of people will remember this, but a bunch of people won't. But like the CD-ROMs taken, you'd have to like take them in and out. It got to the point where like I broke my Armada disc because I played it so much, and I had to buy another copy.
So that's hardcore into it, not bad. And how did you get into the Star Trek franchise?
That would just be like my mom and my dad just constantly watching Star Trek, and as a kid you don't really like understand it. I started watching it more when I was like a teenager, and then like now as an adult, I'm just like, okay, when I go to bed I put on like Deep Space Nine or Voyager or something.
So basically your relaxed TV.
Yeah.
And of course I have to ask you, what is your favorite show?
Out of Star Trek specifically, it would have to be Deep Space Nine. That would be the one that takes the cake for me.
I totally can agree on that. It's very unique.
I really do like the story of Armada because it kind of takes place after the Dominion War. It gives you like kind of an idea of what would have happened.
Yeah, it fits so well after Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Nemesis. It was such a great time back then to have game content which really fits into the universe.
Yeah, it actually fit very well, and that's like one of the like my biggest things about it. Like it fits so well that like playing the game, you'd be like, oh, this is canon, because the story just makes so much sense, and they actually like they put a lot of thought into it. I'm not gonna like knock anything, but Armada 2 sucks compared to Armada 1. I feel like they didn't really care about the story as much as they did in the first one. I don't know, they just changed way too many things. I'm just not a big fan of Armada 2.
I totally can agree on that. It's so different. I replayed Star Trek Armada just a few hours ago. I just finished it. And what I immediately felt was the big immersion factor. For example, in Armada 1, you have these nice cutscenes where you're on the bridge behind Picard or Worf, and you see everything as it would be in an episode. And in Armada 2, it's a little bit different. The graphics is the engine in general is better, but the graphics feels worse, different, comic-like. It's hard to describe.
Right, I do agree. And also one of my gosh, I just you're gonna get me spouting off on how much I hate Armada 2. But one of my biggest complaints about that game is like they added more resources when they shouldn't have. The game was just fine the way it was. Why do you need Latinum? Why do you need like planet population and stuff like that? I don't know.
Yeah, it's night and day from the presentation, but of course I also enjoy Armada 2. It's also a great game, especially if you use mods. Fleet Operation basically transforms the game totally.
I'll admit, like when it comes to the straight down to the modding community, Armada 2 has it. And they got some really good ones out there. Armada 1 really doesn't have very many mods. It should. I think people should go out there and mod it more. But it's such an obscure game that like, not many people are like, oh, that's Mod Armada 1,
Well, Armada 1 also has a lot of mods. Many mods, even from Armada 2, started original for Armada 1, but of course, the better engine always attracts the more recent modders. So yeah, you have that. But Star Trek versus Star Wars is an amazing mod for Star Trek Armada, or the Millennium Project. I really enjoy those projects, those mods.
I've played the Millennium Project. I've never played the Star Wars one now.
Oh, you should. It's basically the dream of every child, where you basically let both universe fight each other.
Well, is there like I do have to ask, is there like a story to it, or is it just like a wrap where it's like, these units are like an X-Wing and a TIE fighter?
The sad thing, I can't remember a single Armada mod which had a story. In Armada 2 there are some mods which have a campaign and everything, but in Armada 1 most mods are just skirmish and multiplayer. But the Star Trek vs. Star Wars mod is definitely so complex. It's not just a reskin of some units, it's really in depth. So a big recommendation for me.
Oh, okay. So it must have changed, like, the coding and stuff. Okay, I'm interested in that then. Yeah, I'll pick that up.
They definitely changed a lot because they had to include all the different small fighters and use torpedoes and missiles. It changes a little bit the gameplay in the sense of, for example, if there are 8 TIE fighters, they need a little bit of a chance against an Intrepid, for example.
Right.
So it's very small little ships against one big ship. It's balancing wise hard. It's sometimes not totally fair, but it's still fun. Since you didn't experience, I guess, so many mods, what you definitely experience is the core game. And yeah, it would be interesting. What would you say keeps you in it? Why do you still play it?
I just really enjoy it. I guess what would keep me still playing it today would just be the fact that the gameplay is very, what's the word I want to say? Like, you can play it over and over and it won't get boring. The more I play it, I'm like, yes, I've done it before, but I could still do it again and still have some fun. Also, with the speedrunning community, like, me, Sphere, and Shutdown, we've all been competing, and that brings more joy to it too, like, and having to think like, how can I do this quicker? How can I do this better? That really like gave me a lot to do. Like, for example, like K1, or not K1, I think it was R3, where the Romulans are getting chased by the Borg, and they gotta hide the containment vessel, or they gotta get the containment vessel all the way to the end. That one in particular, I figured out like that you could just like hold shift and right click and just go through the whole nebula without having to like keep spamming it. And I was like, oh, that's cool. So I just just did that.
It's very interesting for me, the concept of speed running in general, but why did you choose to do it, and basically why do you still do it?
I chose to do it because, as I said, it was a game that like I've picked up, like I've had since my childhood. I looked at, and I've always wanted to get into the speedrunning community, but I know I'm not good enough for anything like that's FPS. So I figured let me dip my hat into like some real-time strategy games. So like, for example, Call to Arms. I have a couple records in Call to Arms. I also moderate the community there, so that doesn't really help. But I have a couple records in that. I have one record in Command and Conquer 3, Kane's Wrath, and I have quite a few records in Armada. But I just looked at it and I was like, well, I think because I know this game better than anybody else, I think I know this game better than anybody else. I'm gonna see if I can, get some records, and I did. I pulled off a couple. I will admit, like some of the missions no matter how fast you try to make it go, it's going to be like a half an hour, 20-25 minutes because of the cutscenes. And some missions have like specific points that you have to hit before you can actually complete the mission. That one, oh gosh, there's one mission in particular, the Federation mission, I think it's F3, where you gotta bring Worf all the way to the end of the wormholes, right? You gotta take him through all the wormholes. And the problem with that mission is if you don't load the 3 Klingon bird of prey that spawn and you take Worf all the way to the end, you fail the mission regardless if you brought him to the end. So you actually have to like make sure that those birds of prey are like just destroyed before you to the end. And it's stuff like that like once I figure that out, it really sparks a passion. I'm like, oh wow, you can't do this until that. And I don't know, I felt like a sense of accomplishment when I went through everything and completed some missions. And like when I got my very first speed run, I remember I reached out to Sphere because he's the one who runs the community. And I was nervous. I was like, hey man, if I upload this, obviously you're going to look at it because you moderate this. And I'm nervous about doing so. I let him know about how I felt. And he said, you know what, man, just upload it. And if it gets verified, it gets verified. If it doesn't, I'll tell you why it doesn't. And it got verified. And that just like sparked something in me where I'm like, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to try to get better. And to this day, I have it installed. It's on my desktop. And right now I could launch it and just run through I think I have a stream because I did stream a while back, but nothing much came out of it. But I do think I have a stream where I ran through the entire game in under 24 hours. I'd have to check, but I know I did a good majority of it at least. And I remember I was really tired and stressed at the end of the night there.
So what would you say is your best speed of beating the game?
In its entirety, I would say but this is because I have children and I have a life and stuff. I'd say 4 hours, but I could definitely beat her way quicker than that. I just have to dedicate the time to it. The thing is like my problem, like I've spoken to Sphere about this, about adding like a full campaign run, and he basically said, well, if you do it, submit it, I'll add it. Right. And that's something that I want to do. I want to do a full campaign run. But the thing is at the moment I don't really have the time to put to a full campaign run. And the biggest problem with a full campaign run, or not a full campaign run, but like a full game run, it would be the Borg. I can run through Federation, Klingon, and Romulan in under an hour or under 2 hours. It's the Borg campaign and the Omega Particle campaign that like soaks up so much time. I know I have very good time. I actually have the current speedrun best on the second mission, Assimilation for Borg, B2. I have the best time for that. But here's something that I figured out is it's random. The amount of units that the Romulans bring in is random, so you could get a good time or you could get a bad time on that mission. And as I said, it's just I don't have the time for it. But I would say if I did, I could get it done in a couple hours.
Very impressive. I needed nearly 12 hours to finish my run.
Yeah, it's the Omega campaign and the Borg campaign. They soak up so much time.
Yeah, definitely. I stuck. And I died even in those parts of the game the most. We killed the Enterprise or the Nekva only in those missions.
Something I've learned is if you're playing on easy, just go ham. You're not going to die. You will die if you're not paying attention. But the second you switch from easy to normal, or even hard, obviously, you take your ship and put him in the corner, park him in the corner of the map so he doesn't die. But if you're on easy, just let your hero ship go ham. He should be fine.
Good to know. I guess you discovered a few nice hidden details in the game. Can you maybe share some tips and tricks for us noobs?
Now, most of my tips and tricks would obviously be for a campaign. Multiplayer is essentially dead in the water. However, I do have a nice little LAN set up here where I like to every once in a while play with my children. They like play. They don't like it. Obviously, they're not really that big into it. But I'm like, hey guys, let's play some Armada. They'd rather play Gary's mod, but I'm like, yo, let's do this instead. Let's say B2 assimilation. If you want to get that mission as soon as possible, what you do is you just take all your units and send them straight through the main wormhole, and just do a full-on assault of the Romulan base. And that it should be that quick and that easy. You will obviously get some, feedback or attack back from the ROMs, but it should be a fairly simple, go through. You could group units. A lot of people don't know you can group units in that game, but you can. And also, I created, this was a few years ago, I created a guide on how to install Star Trek Armada on Windows 10 for people who have like a retail copy and just couldn't get it installed. I put that on Reddit and everything, and a lot of people were able to actually get the game running because of that. On top of that, I also create an entire list of every single keyboard shortcut within the game that's available on the speedrun.com page. If you go to Armada, it's all there. The same guide that I created to install it is there as well. So if you want to look at like specific hotkeys, you can go there. I don't like have anything in mind other than the fact that like you can go through dangerous nebulas using the waypoint trick instead of having to keep right clicking.
Yeah, for a long time I didn't know that there is even a waypoint system. It's a little bit hidden.
Yeah, actually a lot of things are. If you look through the hotkeys in general, you'll be mind blown at how much is hidden. They just don't tell you.
Which is very odd because it had such an amazing manual, and even there they didn't write it down.
They kind of hint at you in the menu like of what key it is. Like if you put your mouse cursor over it, and like for example dilithium, it'll say D and then it'll have like the D underlined, and you just like hit D, right? So that tells you what key it is, but like how are you supposed to know that? It doesn't like explicitly say anything that's underlined is this key. Yeah. So
yeah, stuff like that, exactly. And did you maybe discover any, well, let's say mind-blowing shortcuts in the game which makes it crazy fast to finish a mission?
Not really. But what I did discover is in the very first mission, Premonitions, when the USS Premonition comes out of the wormhole and he's under attack by the Borg and his engines are damaged and stuff, if you save the game and reload the game, the Premonition will actually be fixed and will help you in combat. And I attempted as a joke, I didn't upload the run or anything, but as a joke, I attempted a speed run on hard with that, and it made like, hold on, I can actually check it on YouTube here. I think it made like sub 230. Let's see. Yeah, you could just like reborn the Premonition.
That's a nice Easter egg. I never heard about that.
I tried to as hard as I could. Like, yeah, it's really hard, obviously, to find a glitch in a real-time strategy game. But I tried really hard to find like as many glitches as I could. Yeah, I got that run in 2 minutes and 36 seconds of reviving the Premonition.
Impressive.
It would be impressive if we would consider difficulty, but we don't. We just like how quick could you get it, and the actual run is like 220 or less than that, I believe. The quickest I got on Premonition was 224. I'm trying to think of if I can remember any more glitches that I ran into, because I know I did run into another one. I can't remember if I did that through the I think I did that through the editor, which wouldn't count. So, well, you know what you could always do. It's not really a glitch, but it's kind of like to help you in the. I think it's the third Klingon mission, but it's the one where you got to wait for Worf to get to the, and you only have a starbase. What you should do in that one is you should build a starbase up in the top right corner, where you actually need to wait for the wormhole because a lot of resistance comes from there. And once the starbase is built, all you got to do is just wait for Worf and then use the waypoint system to go straight to the wormhole once he gets there.
It's good to have those little shortcuts. It's basically sometimes the games force you to play a certain way to artificially keep the time up. And it's good to know that there is sometimes a really short way to do them.
Right. I first thought, because what I thought we could do is speed up the timer by attacking Terrell's team. So I did that. And then Sphere and I, we went back and forth on the mission. And then we both came to the conclusion that no matter what you do, Worf is on like a 5-minute timer and you just have to wait. But the second Worf gets there, it's good to have the the starbase there to take out the resistance. And if you do the waypoint system correctly, it's really about like how fast can you get Worf to the wormhole during that mission.
Of course, besides the many different glitches and shortcuts you basically discovered, another thing I guess you discovered are the many different ships in game and locations. Maybe you can tell me some of your favorites.
Well, if I had to go for like a specific team, like, because there's 4 factions in the game, technically there's 5 if you count the Ferengi. In the coding there's 5, but personally I prefer the Borg. Obviously they have the most overpowered weapons, they have the assimilation technology, and what else could you want? You just assimilate the enemy, their technology is yours. There you go. That's as straightforward as it gets. All the teams have weaknesses and strengths, but personally, like, if I were to rank them all, it would be the Borg is the best, then you got Klingon, and then you have Federation, and then you have Romulan. Romulan is, in my opinion, the worst because their weaponry is absolutely terrible. Most of their technology is by far not that good. I'd say it's expendable. Sure, like there are the sensor jammers, which could be nice when you're getting in a big battle, but I still feel like the Borg cube or the sphere would be quick enough to handle any of that.
Yeah, I can only concur on that. They have some nice ideas, especially the spy, but if I know there's a Borg cube coming, I don't need the spy, I need a big warbird or something else to defend myself, and not something which tells me, yeah, there's a Borg cube coming. You're fucked. Great. Thanks.
Exactly. One of my biggest pet peeves about the game is if you play the story mode, there's a bunch of ships that don't appear, or I wouldn't say a bunch, there's really only 2 that don't appear as playable ships, which would be the Galaxy class and the Premonition. I'm just really sad that you can't get those in a multiplayer experience. You have to get that experience through campaign. The Galaxy class is just a glorified sovereign. So I don't know why they left it out. And the Premonition, I could see why they left it out. It's kind of a overpowered ship, but they could have made it really interesting. Whereas the Premonition would be the super weapon instead of having a station. I feel like that would have been interesting.
Yeah, I also felt back then when I first played the game, hey, why isn't there an Intrepid or a Galaxy class to play? I want those ships.
Yeah, the Intrepid, that really bothers me that's not in there too. You know what? Something I did notice, and it's actually my profile picture on speedrun.com. But something I did notice is only the enemy or the AI can cloak a Phoenix class starship, like for the Romulans. Only the AI can cloak that ship. Why why can't I cloak it?
Yeah, my co-host of many different podcasts also discovered that there is basically no hotkey for the cloak button. It's not there for the player, but for the AI there is. It's really strange.
That's crazy. I'm not a fan of that.
Especially it would make the Romulan super weapon so really different that you can cloak it. I really wonder, was it a bug or was it intentional that they disabled it?
Well, if you look through the code, because like every once in a while I'll do that. I'll just like look through it. If you look through the code, the AI can get and we can't. I don't know why. There is code for it cloaking, but I guess it was just never implemented properly. But it's there.
Yeah, totally. It's there. That's why Seven Saturn also found it. Yeah, like I said, I wonder, was it intentional cutout or was it a bug?
I feel like I'd have to say it would be intentional because that would be I wouldn't say like overpowered, but imagine your super weapon just being cloaked. You know, that it's kind of overpowered. yeah, I would say overpowered then.
Definitely, it would be maybe a game balancing thing. Could be. You already mentioned something which annoys you. Are there other things which you are not really fond of in this game?
No, well, there's a lot of like minuscule things that bother me, but nothing very notable. Like for example, I think it's the first Omega particle mission. It's kind of like an escort mission where you got to bring the Galaxy class to the end. Wow, I just realized a lot of these missions are you got to bring ship from point A to point B.
Yeah, they are. They are.
I never thought about never thought about that before. That mission is just super annoying. I could just do the entire game without that mission. The one where you got to take the containment vessel, that one is also annoying, but I can do that without like hesitation. Every time I do the one with the Galaxy class and you got to bring like Spock to the end there, I always forget that mission exists, and every time it comes up, I'm just like, crap.
As a pro gamer in this game, I wonder, in the mission where you have to escort the Romulan containment ship to the Romulan fleet at the end of the map, there is this part where you have the different wormholes. Is there really a pattern in the wormholes, or is it completely random?
There actually is a pattern. It's a 3-point pattern. It goes from 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I think the very first spawn of the wormhole goes straight to like the red dead area, like the red nebula, and it just kills you. The second point brings you to like the middle of the map, and I believe the third point is where you initially go into it. Quite honestly, don't use the wormhole. The wormhole's a waste of time. If you watch the runs that Sphere and I did, you could just bypass it all and just scoot right on through without even much hassle, really. Honestly,
That's exactly what I experienced. I tried it for 5 or 6 minutes, and then I said, crap, I just ran through it without any problems. Okay.
Yeah, you just scoot right through it. Honestly, like if I'd have to pick a favorite mission, my all-time favorite mission would be A Cult of Power. It's the second mission of the Romulans, and it's the one where you can actually strike a deal with the Ferengi. I absolutely love that mission. The only thing that like sucks about it is in terms of speed running, you gotta wait for the containment vessel, which takes about 11 minutes. And then when it gets there, it's slow. The only thing that really you can cut time on is your pathing and, the waypoint. If you get the waypoint system down with the pathing, that's about as good as you can do in terms of like trying to get the best time out of that mission. But as a mission, as a whole, it's amazing because not only is there like kind of a diplomacy system where you start off as enemies with the Ferengi, you befriend them later on if you wish to. If you wish to, that's entirely up to you. And there's also a third-party enemy, the Cardassians, that you got to fight against. So overall, that's just like my all-time favorite mission. I absolutely love it.
It's definitely very unique compared to all the other missions.
Right, that and Assimilation. Assimilation is a very fun mission because like you get to fight the Breen, the Ferengi, the the Klingons, Federation. Who else was in there? I think that's it, really. Oh, and the Romulan, obviously.
Even though they didn't include many playable races, they included so many encounters with different races. It's such a living universe in the game. It's really, really nicely done.
Absolutely. The mission after that, Extermination, that mission is not really the best. It's not the greatest. I can't even remember the species name. I think it was like species 2467 or something like that. Fighting them is a hassle because all they do is just eat your people. But I'd have to say the dynamics of the missions were very good. They actually gave you a huge plethora, and like you're right. They in the Federation campaign, you fought the Sona, you fought the Dominion, and you fought the Borg. And the Klingon campaign, you fight the Klingon, the Borg, and the Romulan. You have all these different enemies. So it gives you really a refreshment where it's like every mission is definitely not the same because you're going up against something different every time, and it makes you rethink your strategies and how am I going to do this right and how am I going to get this done the right way.
Definitely. It helps to create an atmosphere which you remember for so many years. There are so many encounters, so many moments in the game I still remember after 24 years.
Absolutely. To this day, I still remember the intro. I honestly, one of the best cinematic cutscenes or cinematic intros to any game I've ever seen. You just sit down and launch the game and just watch the opening intro. It's freaking amazing. It's essentially a movie, and it gets you excited. It's like watching the opening to what was it? SmackDown versus Raw 2007 as a kid. I was like, whoa, this is good stuff,
It definitely is, but it's also a little bit confusing that you already encounter Locutus in the intro, and in the game you only encounter it in the first Borg mission, or after the first Borg mission.
That's very true. I never thought about that. You got me on that one. Wow. Look at me. I gotta rethink this now.
Are there maybe other favorite memories you still have after so many years which are stuck to your brain?
Just one of my favorite core memories as a child was coming home from school. I had a very bad day. I sat down. I got in a fight with my friend. I sat down. I was my best friend at the time. I sat down at my desk. Or it wasn't even my desk. It was my dad's desk. And I was crying. My dad comes over and he goes, "What's wrong?" So I told him what happened. And he goes, "I'll make you a sandwich. Why don't you play a game or something?" So I launched Armada. And I just remember I ate a very good sandwich that day. And I played a very good game of Armada. And all like just for that time, all my worries and all my pain went away. And all I thought about was, how am I going to destroy these 7 other AI?
Yeah, such memories are so precious and they stuck with you forever. It's really unbelievable how you remember certain details of your childhood and most of the other things are just blank.
I got a really, really bad opinion on I wouldn't say it's bad. It's just I had a bad time with it. Was Elite Force 2. I don't know if you've ever played that one. Oh geez. Elite Force 1 is great. That game's amazing. But Elite Force 2, oh, that's weef. But well, yeah, we're not talking about
that. basically we would talk about it now because I wanted to ask you, what other Star Trek games did you play?
Oh, I played them all. I have them all. I have Hidden Evil. I have Elite Force 2, Armada Armada 2. I got Away Team. I'm also the moderator of the speedrunning community for Away Team. And that's, those are all the classic ones. And, I have a really extensive career in Star Trek or Star Trek Online. So, oh, geez. My guy is, level, I don't know. I can't even remember the levels. I know I'm max rank, and I beat, so many campaigns. It's been about a year since I hopped on Star Trek Online, but I do have, a lot done on that.
Also, to answer your question, yeah, I played also every Star Trek game, and I'm hosting every year the Star Trek September, where I play most of the Star Trek games online with friends and with the internet, basically. Also for Star Trek Elite Force 2, I also think it's not the best game, but there is an amazing co-op mod, so you can experience the whole thing together, which makes it much more enjoyable.
See, I actually tried to do that. I remember because my best friend and I got him a copy of Elite Force 2 off of Good Old Games. And I was like, hey man, let's hop into this, and because he just wanted to play the multiplayer. Because when we were kids, when he'd come over to my house, we would play Elite with the multiplayer for Elite Force, the Hollow Match. Hollow Match, I have really good memories of Hollow Match. That was fun. And the only reason why it was fun is because the AI was basically broken on most of the maps. So it was just me cheesing a bunch of AI, and I just had fun as a kid because the AI was easy. Now when I play it, I'm just what the heck? Everybody's broken. It's not that fun. But back in the day, that was some good stuff for me. But I got my best friend a copy of Elite Force 2, so we tried to do the co-op mod, and I just couldn't get it running. I don't know if I'm just I'm 30 now, so I must have lost some brain cells by now.
Oh no! And sometimes IT is very, very strange. It's sometimes no reason why something doesn't work. But I can definitely tell you it does work. We just had a few days ago a big multiplayer round. 8 people played the co-op campaign basically without any big problems. We had one crash, but after switching to a different mission, everything was fine.
Oh man, I'd really like to see if that's there's a co-op mod like that for Elite Force 1. That's something I'd really be interested in.
Sadly, no. We talked to the developer of the co-op mod for Elite Force 2, and he said it wasn't possible to do the same thing for Elite Force 1.
I wouldn't say that. It was created in the same engine as Quake, so
definitely, but Elite Force 2 is the best or the latest version of the Quake engine. It's the most advanced and the most customized engine from the Quake era. It changed a lot for that.
Oh yeah. Have you ever played Hidden Evil?
It's one of the games I never played. I have it now, but yeah, I have to play it in the future, definitely.
Hidden Evil is a tough one. I'm not huge on it out of all of them because it's basically a point and click adventure game, and it just doesn't click to me. I played it once when I was a kid, and then I tried it again. When all the games released on Good Old Games, I just bought them all. I didn't have to buy Armada because I own a physical copy, and I tried Hidden Evil again, and it just didn't click. Away Team is fun though. You should try that one.
I played it many, many times, and we had the developer on our podcast, or one of the developers. I just wanted to say something about Armada and GOG. They didn't change much by re-releasing the games. Only in Armada they changed a lot. because the performance is so much better. The multiplayer is much more stable. Gameplay is more fluent in Windows 10 and 11. Basically, from the Armada community, it's a big recommendation to use the GOG version, not the original disc version, even though I have it.
It is absolutely true, yeah. Even if like if you look at my Reddit posts, because I as I said, I did make a huge guide, like step-by-step guide on how to like get it to run on Windows 10 if you have like a physical copy. I say right at the top of the guide, you're better off just to buy it on GOG.
Yeah, it's so true. Sadly, it's so true. You can go through all the troubles, but the problem there is you still won't have the same experience as you would basically use the GOG version. I'm not that noobish on the tech side, but the disc version is sluggish.
Oh, yes. I don't think that's like that was a patch thing. You needed like, because there was 2 patches that came out. There was patch 1.1 and 1.2, but there's I don't know if you know this. Do you know of patch 1.3?
Yeah, the community patch which introduces widescreen, and you needed for the disc version also a certain wrapper which helped you play the game. And even then, it's not the same experience.
Right. The wrapper you need is like DJ Voodoo. And you need patch 1.3, which isn't actually like it's not a real patch. It's a patch that, like what you said, the community. If you buy the GOG version, it's version 1.2.
It's 1.2, but that's the interesting thing. In multiplayer, it doesn't matter if you use 1.2 or 1.3, you can play together. So it's only a few bug fixes and widescreen resolution.
Yeah, it's just like the changing of the resolution, and I think it's a couple like texture fixes and things like that.
Yeah, totally. Nothing major. And speaking of course, of different Star Trek games, I also would like, of course, to know what would you like to see in a new Star Trek game?
Well, there was a recent one that came out. Was it? I want to say it's Resurrection?
Resurgency?
Yes, that one. That game was great. My problem with it is the fact that like it's just like one. Well, it's more than one story, but like you play it once and that's it. You know, you get the end of the story and you kind of just have no passion to play it again. What they really need to do, gosh dang, you can. I hope they don't butcher my baby like they did Star Wars, because I love Star Wars too, and they butchered the crap out of that. But what they really need to do is they need to take Star Trek and they need to make a real open world game, like a real one, not like what's it called? The new Star Wars game that just came out, it just released. All the worlds in that game are just barren and stuff like that. They don't need to do worlds. They don't need to do planets for Star Trek. All they need to do is just like prime locations, but make it kind of like open world where you can do like different tasks and stuff. And yeah, I think that would be really fun and cool instead of like having, because every Star Trek game is just story driven. And I understand that, every Star Trek is story driven. You can't have Star Trek without a story. I just feel like there's so much that they could do there, and my biggest problem is it's the same thing with Stargate. I absolutely love Stargate, but you see no content for it. There's no video games. There's no like anything beyond the show. There's really nothing, and I really feel like that Star Trek has hit some really good games like Star Trek Online, which by the way isn't really canon. It should be. It's not. So, but they're doing a really good job with that. So why don't they take elements of that and make it into a real open world AAA experience? I feel like that is what the Star Trek community needs. I know we're not going to get it because Paramount doesn't look at Star Trek as like, oh, people look at Star Trek and want to play a video game. Well, I do. I don't know about you, but I do.
Yeah, I would even go as far as those guys don't even know what the fans in general want. Not even talking only about games, but in general, what the core audience wants.
Well, yeah, look at the new shows. I mean, they're all crap.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned Star Trek Online. Those guys did for so many years a much better job of preserving the feeling of Star Trek than we got in the new shows.
Absolutely, yes, they did. Oh my gosh, so much of my like teenage years were like me, just like 2012 when it first launched, I believe. I bought it. You know, I bought it when it cost money, and I was like, I'm getting into this. I made my own species. I was like, woo! You know, this is some fun. I don't know if we're allowed to swear. I'm not going to swear, but this is some fun stuff. You know?
Yeah, the only fear I have is that one day they decide to shut down the servers and we will lose so many stories, so many last voice lines from so many different actors.
Man, I haven't. Look, I'm not a whale. I don't whale that game. But if you knew how much money I put into that game, I would be sad. I'd be a little sad that the servers went down.
Yeah, me too. I have a lifetime subscription since day one, more or less. And of course, I bought additional content. I'm also not a whale, but I also would be sad in that sense. But I would be more sad that we would lose so many amazing work of actors from the Star Trek shows.
Yeah, that was one of my biggest things. Like the fact that they managed to bring all these actors back to reprise their roles was just amazing. Amazing, blew my mind. And they got, who was it? They got they got Kate Mulgrew. They got what was that? Will Wheaton, Jerry Ryan. They got them all.
Yeah, the list is unbelievable. It's really a really nice list of actors they included. And since we are talking about Star Trek Armada, did you know that they included also Star Trek Armada ships and Elite Force weapons into the game?
Yes, they did. They what was it? The Akira class?
Well, the Akira class already was a ship in First Contact, but they included the Borg assimilator. They included the Premonition, the iMod from Elite Force.
Didn't Armada release before First Contact?
No, Armada released in 2000 and First Contact released in 1996.
Six? Oh, geez. I got that wrong. Oh, wow.
So the canon ships they already have in Star Trek Online for many years, but they recently included, like I said, the Borg assimilator, the Premonition, a few other things from other games.
Oh, they added the dilithium freighter. It's not called the dilithium freighter, but if you look at it, it's the dilithium freighter.
Yeah, I just hope basically that we will get in the future a new game, because the last year was for a short time very positive. We had Star Trek Resurgency, we had Star Trek Infinite, and Star Trek Infinite died after 3 or 4 months.
Oof.
So not a good sign for new games, sadly.
No.
At least we can say the Star Trek franchise isn't as cursed as the Stargate franchise, because every time a new game is announced, there is a high probability that it will be shut down before it even releases.
That is true. I just wish they'd do something with Stargate. It's such a good series.
Yeah, I always say it's the perfect co-op game, the perfect co-op setting. You have 4 players, 4 different classes, explore different worlds through a gate. What else do you need?
Oh, exactly. It's amazing. If they could. I mean, the closest you can get to it is like the Stargate mod and Gary's mod. But
Yeah, sadly. But since we're a little bit off topic, I would say I open now the mic to you. Is there anything you would like to add? Anything we missed talking?
No, not really.
Then yeah, let me say thank you to you for joining, and maybe we meet each other in the future again for different Star Trek games, or even on the Star Trek September nights. But until then, I would say that's it for this video. Give us a comment, tell us what you think about the game, and of course, play the game. Until next time.